Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, I'm doing a speed rundown of the 12th Doctor to finally finish what was my 12 Doctors of Christmas special. Be sure to watch the videos I've already done of Doctors 1 through 11 if you haven't already. When I started this project, my goal was to create a series of videos that someone could watch and be completely caught up with the entire series. I hope I've accomplished that, at least in part, and I look forward to continue to provide Doctor Who content to all of you that bridges the gap between old and new. Once again, here's my reminder for spoilers, and with that, let's pick up where we last left off. After regenerating into the 12th Doctor and complaining about his kidneys, the Doctor tells Clara that the TARDIS is crashing, and we next see them in Victorian London as Madame Vastra, Jenny, and Strax see the TARDIS materialize, followed by a massive T-Rex that got caught in their time energy. They go to the TARDIS and learn of the Doctor's regeneration from Clara, as the Doctor quickly passes out due to his post-regeneration confusion. However, he later wakes to the sad cries of the T-Rex, who he can understand, and he makes his way towards her, promising to return her to her own time. But suddenly, the T-Rex spontaneously combusts right in front of his eyes, and when Vastra and the rest of the gang join him, he learns from Vastra that this is not the first case of spontaneous combustion to happen recently. The Doctor leaves them again to investigate, but meets back up with Clara in a restaurant after they are both lured there by a message in the newspaper. They find that the restaurant is full of humanoid robots, and one in particular is a cyborg who has been repairing himself with organic parts for centuries, including earning the T-Rex. They attack the robots with the help of Vastra, Jenny, and Strax, and the Doctor chases the cyborg into a hot air balloon, where after a struggle, the cyborg falls to his death, disabling all of the other robots. Later, the Doctor has finally settled into his new form and has a brand new TARDIS, but Clara hesitates to join him again until she receives a phone call from the 11th Doctor, urging her to give his new incarnation a chance. Later, after rescuing a woman named Journey Blue from the Daleks, the Doctor returns her to her ship, the Aristotle, and meets her patient, a Dalek, that has been damaged and as a result has developed a sense of morality, making it hate the Daleks. The Doctor quickly travels to Earth to collect Clara, who has just made a date with her co-worker Danny Pink, and they return to the Aristotle together, shrinking themselves down along with Journey Blue and 2 other crew members. The group enters the Dalek to determine what's making it good, and as they make their way to the Dalek's power center, one of the crew is killed in the process by the Dalek's internal security, and the Doctor realizes that the Dalek is leaking radiation. However, once he fixes this, the Dalek reverts to its evil ways, confirming the Doctor's suspicion that the Dalek was never good to begin with, only broken. However, as he prepares to destroy the now rampaging Dalek, Clara slaps the Doctor and makes him reconsider his hatred for the Daleks. Instead, they work to reawaken the Dalek's morality, and another crew member sacrifices themselves to accomplish this. In the end, the Dalek not only regains his morality, but also assimilates the Doctor's hatred for the Daleks. He destroys the Daleks that are attacking the Aristotle and tells the Dalek mothership that the Aristotle has been destroyed, vowing to wage a personal war against his own race. As they prepare to leave, Journey asks to join the Doctor, but he turns her down because she is a soldier. After Clara demands that the Doctor take her to meet Robin Hood, he takes the TARDIS to England in the year 1190, and much to the Doctor's surprise, they indeed find Robin Hood, who the Doctor thought was a legend. And as Robin Hood takes them to meet his merry men, the Doctor remains suspicious. They all attend an archery tournament, where Robin Hood easily beats the Sheriff of Nottingham, but when the Doctor then challenges him as well, ultimately using his sonic screwdriver to explode the target, the Sheriff takes the Doctor prisoner, with what turns out to be robotic knights. They learn that the Sheriff has been trying to repair a crashed spaceship that he discovered, planning to use it to take over London and eventually the world, along with the ship's robots. After leading the prisoners in a revolt, the Doctor realizes that Robin Hood is indeed real, and when the Sheriff challenges Robin Hood to a duel, he is killed. As the spaceship flies away, they all shoot it with a golden arrow, allowing its engines to clear the Earth's atmosphere and detonate harmlessly. After reuniting Robin Hood with his maid Marian, the two depart in the TARDIS. Later, after Clara and Danny Pink get into an argument during their first date, The doctor picks Clara up to help him track down a creature that is perfect at hiding, and may be responsible for a common fear of something under the bed. Using the telepathic circuits to attempt to travel to Clara's childhood, she instead takes them to Danny Pink's childhood, accidentally thinking of him instead. After possibly saving young Danny from one of the creatures they are searching for, they wipe his memory and travel back to the present, where Clara unsuccessfully tries to make up with Danny. She is beckoned back into the TARDIS, where she meets Orson Pink, one of Danny's descendants, who the Doctor has found stranded at the edge of the universe, after his future time travel mission went wrong. After the Doctor becomes incapacitated, Clara uses the telepathic circuits to try and get them back to the present, but she is taken to the Doctor's childhood on Gallifrey instead, and she hides under his bed, accidentally creating the very fear in him that he's now investigating. She gives the young Doctor the same advice that he's given her about being afraid, and she sees him back to sleep. Clara enters the TARDIS and tells the Doctor to promise her that he will never learn where they currently are, and he agrees. They return Orson to his proper time, and Clara returns home, visiting Danny and apologizing for her behavior before they kiss. The Doctor and Clara wake up on an alien planet with two others, Sai, a hacker with an augmented brain, and Sabra, a shapeshifter. None of the four have any memory of how they have arrived here, but they find a recording that they all made, agreeing to the mind wipe. The group is being asked by someone known only as the Architect to rob the most secure bank in the universe and steal 3 items from its vault. The bank is secured by a telepathic alien called the Teller, who can detect criminal intent in people and destroy their brains, which is why the group had to wipe their minds of their intent to rob the bank. But the Architect has given them each a disintegrator, so that they may kill themselves if they happen to be caught. Sai and Sabra sacrifice themselves to get the group to the vault, but once inside, they learn that the Doctor was the Architect all along, and the disintegrators were just teleporters, meaning no one actually died. They manage to steal their items from the vault, including the Teller's mate, who was being held captive in order to keep him as a prisoner, and they all enjoy a meal together before the Doctor takes them home. As Clara struggles to keep her dating life with Danny Pink separate from her travels with the Doctor, she is surprised when the Doctor takes a job at her school as a caretaker in order to stop a murderous robot, the Skovox Blitzer, from destroying the Earth. The Doctor puts devices around the school to trap the robot in a time displacement field, but when Danny Pink sees this, he becomes suspicious and interferes, causing the Doctor's plan to fail and only displace the robot by a few hours. Danny confronts Clara and the Doctor, and they all get into an argument, with Clara telling the Doctor that she is in love with Danny. During Parents' Evening, the robot returns, and with Danny's help, they manage to force it to stand down. Later, after one of Clara's students, Courtney Woods, discovers the TARDIS, the Doctor offers to take her along on a trip, and they arrive on board a space shuttle in the year 2049, as it's on a crash course for the moon. They learn from the ship's crew that the moon's gravitational influence suddenly changed years ago, causing devastation back on Earth and wiping out much of humanity, and the crew is now on a suicide mission to destroy the moon. Arriving at the lunar colony, they find it covered in cobwebs, and the Doctor confirms that the moon has gained 1 billion tons of additional mass. They are attacked by spider creatures, which kill much of the crew, and they take shelter as the Doctor tells them that the moon is actually a giant 100-million-year-old egg that's just about ready to hatch, and the spiders are just microbes on its surface. But the remaining crew still want to destroy the moon, which prompts the Doctor to angrily abandon them. They decide to let the people of Earth decide what to do, but when they all indicate that they want the egg destroyed, Clara changes her mind at the last minute and stops the detonation. The Doctor arrives and tells her that she made the right choice as he evacuates them all off of the crumbling moon. Back on Earth, they watch as a winged creature is born from the moon, before it lays a new egg to replace the moon for Earth. The Doctor brings Courtney and Clara back home, but Clara, angry with the Doctor for making her choose what to do, tells him that she does not want to see him anymore. Deciding to allow the Doctor to take her on one last adventure, they arrive on a future luxury spaceship designed to look like the Orient Express, but they learn that passengers have been mysteriously dying after seeing an invisible mummy. The Doctor discovers that each of the deaths takes exactly 66 seconds, which matches a well-known myth about a supernatural being called the Foretold. As more victims are taken, the Doctor realizes that the Foretold is draining energy from its victims using phase-shifting technology, and that it's picking off the weakest members of the group first. As the next victim is selected, the Doctor tricks the Foretold into targeting him instead, and in 66 seconds he identifies the mummy as a soldier from a long-ago war, and offers their surrender to convince the mummy that its long war is over. The Foretold salutes the Doctor before disintegrating into a pile of dust. Back in the TARDIS, Clara decides that she does not want to stop traveling with the Doctor after all, lying to both him and Danny. When the Doctor discovers something draining the TARDIS's energy, they materialize in Bristol, and Clara gets out to look around. But soon, the TARDIS shrinks to a very small size, preventing the Doctor from getting out, and he passes Clara his sonic screwdriver and psychic paper. Acting as Dr. Clara, Clara meets a young man named Rigsy, who explains that many people have been going missing recently. Soon, they learn that there are two-dimensional figures, who the Doctor names the Boneless, that have been killing people by flattening them into 2 dimensions, though it's hard to know if they are doing it maliciously or if they just don't understand the damage that they are doing. After Clara tricks the Boneless into feeding their power into the tiny TARDIS, it reverts to its normal size, and the Doctor, realizing that the Boneless have no peaceful intentions, returns them to their normal dimension. The Doctor and Clara say goodbye to Rigsy, who they will meet again, and they leave. After Clara and Danny Pink chaperone a group of kids overnight, they wake to find the whole world covered in a thick forest. One of the students, Mabe, wanders off, but is found by the Doctor as they all regroup, and Danny learns that Clara has been lying to him about her travels with the Doctor. Mabe wanders off again, hearing voices, and the Doctor learns that she is surrounded by small bug-like creatures who explain that they have been on Earth since the dawn of time, and have grown the forest. The Doctor realizes that the creatures grew the forest to protect the Earth from an incoming solar flare, and after warning the world's governments to leave the trees alone, they watch from orbit as the solar flare harmlessly strikes Earth. The Doctor returns Clara to Earth as the trees disappear, and Danny accepts her apology for lying about her travels. Later, as Clara talks on the phone with Danny, he is struck by a car and is killed. Traumatized by this, Clara attempts to hold the TARDIS for ransom until the Doctor agrees to help her save Danny, as she knows that it will create a paradox, but she does not care. The Doctor reluctantly agrees to help her try and locate Danny in the afterlife, and they use the telepathic circuits to try and find his location, arriving in a strange mausoleum that holds several tanks of human skeletons in water. They are greeted by a woman named Missy, who claims to be a Mobile Intelligence Systems Interface, a robot receptionist for the 3W facility. She introduces them to Dr. Chang, who tells them that the skeletons around them are in something called dark water, which only allows organic material to be seen. He explains that the facility was founded after the discovery of voices from the recently deceased, with 3W being short for the 3 words that they hear repeatedly from the dead. Don't cremate me. It turns out that the dead can feel their bodies even after they die, which is a horrifying idea. Clara is offered the chance to contact Danny in the afterlife, and she succeeds in communicating with him, but he tricks her into ending the call, as he does not want her to waste her life looking for him. Meanwhile, Dr. Chang tells the Doctor that Missy is not the facility's receptionist, but is actually his supervisor, and they discover that she has drained the tanks, revealing them to be Cybermen, and explaining that she has used Time-Lord technology to hold the dead in a nether sphere, to convert them all into new Cybermen soldiers. Realizing that Missy is a Time Lord, the Doctor demands to know who she is, and is horrified to learn that she is his old nemesis, the Master. UNIT arrives and renders both Missy and the Doctor unconscious, but not before 91 Cybermen are sent to explode over graveyards in the UK to convert the dead into Cybermen. Kate Stewart makes the Doctor President of Earth once again, but soon Missy escapes and kills UNIT scientist and fan favorite, Osgood. Meanwhile, back at the 3W facility, Clara is confronted by Cybermen, but is saved by Danny Pink, who has been converted but retained his personality. He takes Clara to a graveyard and asks her to destroy him, as he cannot live with the emotional pain of being a Cyberman. After Missy reveals that it was her that gave Clara the TARDIS phone number all that time ago, they join Clara in the graveyard, and the Doctor learns from the Cyber Danny that soon every living being will be converted into Cybermen. After Missy gives the Doctor control of the Cyber Army in an attempt to show him that he is just like her, he refuses her gift and instead hands control over to Cyber Danny, who leads the army into the sky where they all self-destruct, including himself. As Clara prepares to kill Missy, a rogue Cyberman does it first, and it's revealed to be the remains of Kate Stewart's father, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. 2 weeks later, Danny contacts Clara and tells her that one person can still be resurrected from the Nethersphere, but instead of himself, he decides to bring back a young boy who he mistakenly killed during his time in the military. Clara and the Doctor meet, and both of them lie to one another, with Clara telling the Doctor that Danny was resurrected, and the Doctor telling Clara that he has found Gallifrey again. Sadly, they both tell each other goodbye. Months later, Clara wakes in the middle of the night and finds Santa Claus, elves, and the Doctor on her roof. The Doctor takes her to the North Pole, and they meet a crew of scientists who are being overrun by crab-like creatures that have already incapacitated half of their personnel. Soon, the Doctor and Clara are attacked by the crabs as well, but they are saved by Santa Claus, who helps them identify the creatures as dream crabs, aliens that induce pleasant dreams in their victims as a distraction while the crabs devour their brains. After the Doctor and Clara admit that they lied to each other in their last meeting, Clara is attacked by a dream crab and sent into a dream world where she is reunited with Danny, and the Doctor must go into her dream to bring her back. As they wake back up in the base, the Doctor reveals that all of them are still dreaming, which explains the appearance of Santa Claus. However, after helping all of the crew wake up, they realize that they saw Santa back at Clara's house and must still be dreaming. After having everyone wake up for a second time, the Doctor wakes up alone and quickly travels to Clara to learn that she is an elderly woman now, and was only dreaming of being her old age. The Doctor regrets not returning for her sooner, but suddenly Santa appears again, as they are still dreaming, and waking up again, for real this time, he returns to Clara to find her young again, and wanting no regrets, the two happily return to the TARDIS and prepare to go on many more adventures. On a war-torn battlefield, the Doctor comes across a young boy, but as he attempts to save him, he learns that the boy's name is Davros, and he is on the planet Skaro, and as a result, the Doctor abandons him. Later, Clara is summoned by UNIT, when every plane on Earth suddenly stops in mid-air, and it turns out to be a message from the presumed dead Missy, who wants Clara's help in finding the Doctor since she has found the Doctor's confession dial, a Time Lord's last will and testament. They track him down to Essex in 1138, where he has been partying, and while there, the Doctor is taken prisoner by an agent of Davros, who tells him that Davros wishes to see him as his dying wish. They are taken to the Dalek planet of Skaro, and the Doctor meets with Davros alone, where he is shamed for his past actions. Missy and Clara are brought to be executed in front of the Doctor, and although he pleads for their lives, they are destroyed along with the TARDIS. However, it is revealed that Missy used her vortex manipulator to save them, and they re-enter the Dalek city through the underground tunnels. But after Missy tricks Clara into getting into a Dalek casing, she quickly abandons her. Meanwhile, back with Davros, the Doctor gives him some regeneration energy so that he may live long enough to see the sunrise. But this is just a trick, as the energy is sent to every living Dalek, creating new hybrid forms. However, it also causes the decaying Daleks under their feet to awaken and revolt, destroying the city. Missy comes and saves the Doctor, but he sends her away after finding Clara in the Dalek casing. As the Doctor and Clara watch the city being destroyed, he realizes what he must do, and using the TARDIS, the Doctor returns to the young Davros and saves him, teaching him mercy. The Doctor and Clara arrive at an underwater base in the year 2119, and they learn that the crew here has been plagued by what they are calling ghosts, ever since they found a strange spaceship in the submerged town around them. To escape the ghosts, the crew hides inside the base's Faraday cage, where the ghosts will not go. After another member of the crew dies and joins the ghosts, the Doctor traps them all in the Faraday cage, and after reading their lips, he determines that they are broadcasting a signal to draw something towards them. After finding a stasis pod that will not open, the Doctor decides he must travel back in time to before the town flooded, and he takes 2 crew members along with him. But shortly after he leaves, a ghost of the Doctor appears. Meanwhile, the Doctor and his crew arrive in the town on the day that the spaceship arrived, and they meet Prentice, an alien who is tasked with taking the body of his deceased warlord, the Fisher King, to its final resting place. However, they recognize Prentice as the original ghost from the future, and sure enough, the Fisher King soon wakes and kills him, along with one of the crew that the Doctor had brought with him. Back in the future, the Ghost Doctor is repeating a list of names, and they determine that it is the order that the crew will die, with Clara being next. The Doctor confronts the Fisher King and learns that his ghosts will draw an armada to Earth to conquer it. But the Doctor tricks the Fisher King into returning to his ship, and at that moment, he uses a power cell from it to destroy the dam preventing the town from flooding, submerging the entire city, and killing the Fisher King. Back in the future, the TARDIS arrives with the remaining crew member, and the stasis chamber opens, revealing that the Doctor took the long way back to Clara. After saying their goodbyes, the two depart. They next arrive in a Viking village, but when a figure appears in the sky claiming to be Odin, soldiers appear and take many villagers with them, including Clara and another young woman from the village named Ashildr. The group is transported to an alien ship, where the men are killed and drained of their adrenaline and testosterone by an alien race known as the Mire. But Clara and Ashildr are spared and given 24 hours to prepare after Ashildr declares war on them. Back in the village, Clara and Ashildr reappear, and with the Doctor, they come up with a plan to fight the Mire. Using electric eels, the Vikings surprise the Mire and take one of their helmets, which Ashildr uses to trick them into running away. However, using the helmet ends up killing Ashildr, and a distraught Doctor at first doesn't know what to do about it. But after he realizes why he chose his current face, he declares that he's the Doctor, and he saves people. In taking a chip from the Mire helmet, he infuses it with Ashildr, which heals her. However, the Doctor fears he may have done more bad than good, as the chip will never fail, and will essentially make her immortal. He gives her father a second chip in the hopes that she will give it to someone she cares about, and with that, they leave. Traveling alone, the Doctor runs into a highwayman in 1651 known as the Nightmare, but it turns out to be Ashildr, over 800 years after the Doctor saved her. After such a long life, Ashildr has experienced much heartache, including losing her 3 children to the Black Death. And she doesn't even remember most of her experiences, since her human memory can only hold so much. Referring to herself as me now, she begs the Doctor to take her with him, but he refuses. After the Doctor helps me steal an artifact that belongs to an alien friend of hers named Leandro, the Doctor learns that she plans to use it to open a portal into space, where she and Leandro can travel the galaxy together. But the artifact requires a death in order to work. Attempting to use the public hanging of another highwayman as a sacrifice, Me places the artifact on the victim's chest and opens the portal. But when it turns out that Leandro's real plan is to help his people take over the Earth, Me has a change of heart and uses the second Mire chip given to her father to save the highwayman's life and close the portal, stopping the invasion. Me and the Doctor make amends, and she agrees to remain on Earth, promising to watch over the people that the Doctor leaves behind. After it's revealed that there have been 2 versions of Osgood since the events of the Day of the Doctor, one human and one ZYGON, the one remaining after Missy's rampage is in New Mexico, and she frantically contacts the Doctor before she is captured by ZYGONs. It turns out that a splinter cell of ZYGONs have decided that they don't want to live in hiding anymore, and the Doctor sends Kate Stewart to New Mexico to find out what happened there, but she is soon captured. Meanwhile, the Doctor travels to Turkmenistan to rescue Osgood, but once he has her safely on the plane returning home, they learn that they are in a trap, and back on the ground, Clara, who is actually being impersonated by a ZYGON named Bonnie, fires a rocket at the Doctor's plane. Osgood and the Doctor manage to parachute out of the plane just in time, but they are soon captured by a ZYGON Kate Stewart. Bonnie interrogates Clara and learns that UNIT's Black Archive contains something called the Osgood Box, something that can end the stalemate between the 2 races. She travels to the Black Archive and is soon met by the Doctor and Kate Stewart, but it turns out that Kate was actually not captured by the ZYGONs after all. Bonnie is frustrated to learn that there are 2 Osgood boxes of different colors, one that will either unmask all of the Zygons on Earth or make their disguises permanent, and one that will release a nerve gas that will kill all the Zygons or detonate a nuclear warhead under London. Truth or consequences? Both Kate and Bonnie are prepared to hit their buttons, regardless of the consequences, but after listening to the Doctor's pleas, they both agree to put an end to their fighting and close their boxes. And the Doctor quickly erases everyone's memory so that the knowledge of the Osgood boxes will not get out. The Doctor offers Osgood a chance to travel with him, but she refuses, instead opting to stay on Earth with Bonnie and protect the Osgood boxes. Later, aboard a space station orbiting Neptune in the 38th century, the Doctor and Clara materialize and are soon joined by 4 crew members who were sent to the station in a rescue ship when communications were lost. Finding the space station empty, they are soon attacked by sand creatures that are impervious to weapons, and they take safety in a lab, where they find the only survivor, Rasmussen. They learn that he was testing the newest form of Morpheus, a device that can compress months of sleep into only a few minutes, allowing for more productivity. The Sandmen attack again and appear to kill Rasmussen, and the Doctor determines that they are controlled by the Morpheus signals. They attempt to escape in the rescue ship, but Rasmussen is still alive and stops them in order to use the ship to release Morpheus into the world. However, the Doctor forces the gravity shielding to fail and the space station falls into Neptune, killing the Sandmen and stopping Rasmussen. When Rigsy, from the episode Flatline, contacts Clara, they arrive to find that he has a number tattoo on the back of his neck that's counting down, and he has no memory of how it got there. They learn that Me/a-Shielder is behind it, and she is now the mayor of a secret trap street in London, full of aliens in hiding, and she sentenced Rigsy to death after he was accused of murdering one of her people. When his tattoo reaches 0, a quantum shade in the shape of a raven is summoned to kill him. Me allows the Doctor to prove Rigsy's innocence, but when Clara learns that the tattoo can be transferred to another willingly, she takes the burden from him. But in doing so, she inadvertently prevents the sentence from being lifted. After Me tricks the Doctor into giving up his TARDIS key and his confession dial, she locks him into a teleportation device to honor a deal she made with someone to keep the peace on her street. She reveals that she set Rigsy up in order to get the Doctor's attention, but when she tries to remove Rigsy's sentence, she discovers that she can't. The Doctor becomes furious at Me, but Clara asks him not to be upset or to avenge her death. They say a tearful goodbye, and with that, Clara is killed by the Shade. The Doctor warns Me that Clara's plea was for her benefit, and Me apologizes to him before activating the teleport, sending the Doctor to an unknown location. The Doctor arrives in an empty castle completely surrounded by water, and he begins to explore. He learns that the castle is constantly resetting its rooms, and he is being steadily pursued by a cloaked figure called the Veil, who moves slowly but never stops. The Doctor realizes that the castle reconfigures whenever he makes a confession, and he determines that the point of this trap is to learn his deepest secrets. Eventually, the Doctor ends up in front of a wall made of a mineral 400 times harder than diamond, but instead of making a final confession, he punches the wall until the Veil reaches him, bringing him to near death. With the last of his energy, the Doctor climbs back to the teleportation chamber he started in, and resets it, dying as a new copy of himself arrives in the castle for the first time. The Doctor repeats this process for billions of years, until finally, the wall breaks and the Veil crumbles. The Doctor emerges from his confession dial, where he was being held, and finds himself back on his home world of Gallifrey, and very pissed off. The High Council and the Sisterhood of Karn are alerted to the arrival of the Doctor, and they try to summon him to them, but he refuses, leading to President Rassilon coming to him and ordering his soldiers to kill the Doctor, but they refuse, instead helping the Doctor to exile him and the Council. The Doctor learns that the Time Lords arranged for him to be trapped so that they could learn the identity of the Hybrid, a Time Lord prophecy relating to the destruction of Gallifrey, information that the Doctor supposedly learned long ago. The Doctor tells the Time Lords that he needs Clara, and convinces them to use an extraction chamber to retrieve her from her timeline an instant before her death, essentially freezing her in time so that not even her heart will beat. With Clara with him again, the Doctor steals a gun and shoots a general to allow their escape. The Doctor quickly steals a new TARDIS, and he and Clara use it to flee Gallifrey and Clara's time loop. But no matter how far they go, Clara's heartbeat does not return. The Doctor decides to travel to the very end of the universe, 5 minutes before its collapse, and he finds a Shielder/Me there, the last immortal being remaining, standing in the ruins of Gallifrey as the prophecy foretold. But Me counters that he and Clara together are the hybrid, with each driving the other to catastrophic actions. The Doctor confesses his intentions to erase Clara's memory so that the Time Lords will not be able to locate her, and hearing this, Clara attempts to reverse the polarity of the memory block so that it will not work. When the Doctor returns, he and Clara agree to use the memory block together, and it turns out that the Doctor is the one that gets affected. As his memory of Clara begins to fade, he says another tearful goodbye to her, and soon passes out. The Doctor wakes up in the Nevada desert with no memory of Clara or how he got there, and he wanders to a diner where he unknowingly meets Clara and tells her his story. Once he's finished, Clara heads to the back room of the diner, where it's revealed to be the TARDIS that they stole, and Me is there as well. The diner TARDIS disappears from around the Doctor as Me and Clara begin their own adventures through space and time. With the diner gone, the Doctor sees his TARDIS, and once inside, he finds a message from Clara. Run, you clever boy, and be a doctor. With a new sonic screwdriver, the Doctor sets the TARDIS for a new destination. Sometime later, in the year 5343, the Doctor is mistaken for a medical doctor by a bumbling servant named Nardole, and is unwittingly brought to River Song, Nardole's employer, and the wife of a dying man badly in need of a surgeon. As River is familiar with all 12 of the Doctor's original incarnations, she has no knowledge of his new regeneration cycle, so she does not even suspect that the Doctor is her doctor, and he has a lot of fun with his newfound anonymity with his wife. River tells the Doctor that the most valuable diamond in the universe has become lodged in her husband Hydroflax's brain, and it is slowly killing him, so she needs him to remove his head so she can take the diamond, really not caring that Hydroflax will die in the process. Hearing this, though, Hydroflax willingly detaches his head and orders his cyborg body to kill River and the Doctor, but they manage to steal his head and escape back to the TARDIS, which River tells the Doctor they will need to borrow, still not realizing who he is. Hydroflax's body decapitates Nardole and uses his head as it pursues River, and once it locates and enters the TARDIS, they dematerialize, arriving on a spaceship called the Maitre D', and deadlock Hydroflax's body inside the cargo hold. River attempts to sell the diamond, but soon Hydroflax's body escapes and confronts River and the Doctor, releasing the diamond from the severed head and now demanding to know the location of the Doctor so that it may use his head as a replacement. River tells them that the Doctor isn't anywhere near them, as he doesn't really care about her as she does for him, but she suddenly realizes that the Doctor has been standing beside her this whole time, and the two plan their escape as a meteor shower arrives at the perfect time to provide them with a diversion. With the ship crashing, the Doctor and River escape into the TARDIS, but the impact still knocks River unconscious. Having crashed on Beryllium, the planet where the Doctor will spend his last nights with River Song, the Doctor uses the diamond to fund the construction of a restaurant at the crash site, and he travels into the future to book a table there in 4 years' time. When River wakes, she finds the Doctor in the restaurant, and he gives her the sonic screwdriver that she had the first time he met her in his 10th incarnation. As they admire the singing towers of Beryllium, the Doctor refuses to tell River if this will be their last night together, but he reveals that a night on Beryllium lasts for 29 years, and the two live happily together for as long as they can. After his 29 years with River are over, the Doctor finds himself in New York City on Christmas Eve in 1992, where he accidentally turns a little boy named Grant into a superhero when he swallows a magic gemstone the Doctor was using in a device. With little options, the Doctor makes Grant promise not to use his new superpowers. But when the Doctor returns to New York City in the year 2016 to investigate a mysterious research company, now accompanied by Nardole, who he rebuilt, They discover that the company called Harmony Shoal is being secretly run by a group of aliens, and when the Doctor and Nardole are discovered, along with a reporter named Lucy, they are saved by a superhero called the Ghost, who is Grant in disguise. And it turns out that Lucy is the woman for whom he nannies, and he is secretly in love with her. The Doctor and Nardole use the TARDIS to board the aliens' ship, and learn that their plan is to take over the bodies of the Earth's leaders. When they send their ship on a crash course to destroy New York City, Grant is able to stop it just in time, but in doing so, he reveals his identity to Lucy, and the two kiss. The Doctor alerts UNIT to Harmony Shoals, and they shut them down. Grant promises to not use his powers anymore, and the Doctor leaves. But when Lucy asks Nardole why the Doctor is so sad, he tells him that the Doctor is mourning the loss of River Song, but he will recover like he always does. We next learn that the Doctor has been forced to guard a mysterious vault hidden on Earth, and as a result, he is lecturing at St. John's University, and has been for at least 50 years, and possibly over 70. He summons a girl named Bill Potts to his office, asking her why she attends his lectures despite not being a student. And she impresses him so much that he takes her on as his personal student. As Bill and the Doctor develop a bond, Bill also starts to fall for a girl named Heather, whose eye looks like a star. When Heather disappears near a strange puddle, Bill tells the Doctor about it, and he goes to investigate, noting that the reflection in the puddle is actually the puddle mimicking them, and it is not water at all, but instead a strange sentient oil. It turns out that Heather was consumed by the puddle, and with its new host, the puddle pursues Bill, finding her at her flat and chasing her to the Doctor's office, where he instructs her to hide in the TARDIS and reveals his secret place to her. They first use the TARDIS to check on the vault, before attempting to outrun the oil by fleeing across the universe, ultimately ending up during one of the Dalek-Movellan Wars, hoping to vaporize the oil with the power of a Dalek weapon. But unfortunately, nothing is able to stop the oil in its pursuit of Bill. Bill suddenly realizes that she made Heather promise not to go anywhere without her, and that the oil is simply trying to fulfill that request. Bill tells Heather to let her go, and it finally leaves. When they return to the Doctor's office, he attempts to erase Bill's memory, but when she resists, he is reminded of losing his memories of Clara, and he decides to send Bill away. And rethinking things, he soon meets Bill in the TARDIS, and asks her to travel with him, which she happily agrees to. Despite Nardole's warning the Doctor of his promise to stay on Earth and guard the vault, the Doctor allows Bill to pick a destination, and she requests to travel to the future to see if it's happy. They land on an off-world colony in the far future where millions of nanobots called Vardy make up and manage the entire city, but there are strangely no humans in sight. When they discover that the Vardy have killed all of the colonists in a misguided attempt to cure them of their grief, the Doctor attempts to blow up the whole colony. But when hundreds of new colonists are found sleeping in stasis, the Doctor is forced to negotiate a truce between the two races to prevent an all-out war. With peace achieved, the Doctor and Bill attempt to return to Earth, but they step out of the TARDIS onto the frozen Thames and realize that they are not where they intended. It turns out that the Doctor overshot their destination, and they are at London's Frost Fair in the year 1814. After enjoying the spectacle for a while, the Doctor and Bill notice strange lights under the ice, and soon they witness a young orphan boy pulled under the ice to his death. They follow the other orphans back to their home and learn that a man has been paying them to lure people out onto the ice. The Doctor and Bill use diving suits to go into the River Thames and discover a massive sea creature covered in chains. They return to land and learn that the droppings of the creature are collected for fuel that burns many times hotter than coal, and they find that the owner of the operation is a wealthy Lord Sutcliffe, who has used the creature to amass a fortune, despite knowingly feeding it people as victims. Sutcliffe plans to use explosives on the ice to create a massive amount of casualties for the creature to eat, and he ties the Doctor and Bill to the explosives, but they soon escape and manage to warn people off the ice. When Sutcliffe sees what they're doing, he attempts to detonate the bombs, but the Doctor has time to move them underwater where the explosion breaks the chains and frees the creature. As the creature swims away, Sutcliffe falls through the cracking ice and is killed. Afterwards, the Doctor forges Sutcliffe's will to make sure that the orphans inherit his fortune. Later, when Bill and her 5 friends are looking for a place to live, They take an insanely cheap offer from an elderly landlord in his large mansion. But as the doctor helps Bill move in, he senses that something is not right. The doctor decides to spend the night in the house with the new tenants, and they are all surprised when the creaky house begins to attack them, sucking them into its walls. The doctor discovers that tiny insects that can interact with wood on a molecular level are the culprits, and he names them dryads. He then discovers from old records that every 20 years, a new set of students are lured to the house to feed the dryads. Meanwhile, Bill and her friend Shireen make their way into the mansion's tower, which is off limits, and they discover the landlord's daughter, Eliza, made completely of wood. And when the landlord finds the doctor, he too is brought to the tower when he claims he may be able to help her with her condition. They learn that the landlord is not actually the girl's father, but her son, who brought the dryads to his sick mother from outside when he was just a child, and finding that they healed her condition while turning her into wood, he continued to feed them. Eliza is horrified to learn what her son has done to keep her alive, and she commands the dryads to consume them both, thanking the doctor. As the house crumbles around them, Bill's friends are magically returned, and they all watch in sadness as their new home turns to dust. Later, as Bill and the doctor prepare to set off to answer a distress signal, Nardole bursts in to prevent them from leaving again, but the doctor dismisses this and dematerializes anyway, and the three wind up on a space station, much to Bill's excitement. But strangely, the station is completely devoid of oxygen. They learn that the spacesuits on board are the only source of oxygen on the ship, and with this warning, the unauthorized oxygen being provided by the TARDIS is sucked out of the station, with the vacuum it creates separating them from the TARDIS. They put on some spacesuits and attempt to find the surviving members of the crew, but they are pursued by zombies, dead crew members who are being animated by their mechanical suits, with one touch from them being instant death. They meet the four survivors who tell them that the suits are the property of the station, who sells the oxygen for a profit, and for some reason they have been programmed to deactivate their organic components. When they all must resort to leaving the station to escape the zombies, Bill is forced to go out without her helmet, which is malfunctioning. But when the doctor gives her his own helmet, they all make it back inside safely, but not before the doctor is made blind by his sacrifice. As the zombies continue to approach, Bill's suit malfunctions again, and the doctor is forced to leave her behind as she is converted into a zombie. However, it is soon revealed that her suit did not have enough energy left inside of it to kill her, and when the doctor programs the station to self-destruct when they are killed, the zombies calculate that killing them would be too expensive, and they stand down. After taking the survivors to safety, the doctor has his eyes repaired and they return to the university. But as Bill leaves, the doctor tells Nardole that he is still blind. To cope with his new disability, the doctor rigs his sonic sunglasses to interface with his mind, giving him at least a small idea of what's around him. He receives an email titled EXTREMIS and views a video attachment where we see the doctor meet with the Pope, who tells him of a recently translated text called the Veritas that causes anyone who reads it to commit suicide. Intrigued, the doctor travels to the Vatican to read the text for himself, but when he, Nardole, and Bill arrive, they find that it has been emailed to CERN, and the scientists there have asked for prayers. As the doctor sits down to read the text, borrowing sight from his future incarnations, he is stopped by ghoulish figures dressed as monks, and though he is able to escape, his sight leaves him once again before he can read the Veritas. Meanwhile, Bill and Nardole step through a strange portal in the Vatican library and end up in a hub of similar portals, leading to a range of important places. When they wind up in CERN, they find the scientists there preparing a mass suicide, and they learn that the Veritas tells of the end of the world. Fleeing before the scientists can kill themselves, they return to the hub, but when Nardole steps out from behind the lights projecting the portals, he disappears, indicating that he is not real, and is actually part of a massive simulation. A terrified Bill follows a path of blood through another portal, and finds the doctor in the White House along with the president who has killed himself. The doctor has had the Veritas read to him by his computer, and he tells Bill that it contains a story about a demon who creates detailed simulations to practice an invasion. The Veritas gives its readers a test that they can do to determine if they are in one of these simulations, and it turns out that that is the case, and none of what's around them is real, not even themselves. Bill suddenly disappears when a monk reveals itself, taunting the doctor, but the doctor tells the monk that his sonic shades have been recording everything he has seen, and even though he's just a simulation, there's something that anything can do from inside a computer: send an email. With that, the simulated doctor forwards his video file to his real self, who we saw in the beginning of this episode, and armed with the knowledge of the coming invasion, the real doctor calls Bill and tells her to prepare for the worst. Soon, the monk's spaceship, disguised as a 5,000-year-old pyramid, mysteriously appears overnight in a disputed zone, right between the American, Russian, and Chinese armed forces, and the doctor, who is still blind, is summoned to fill his role as the president of Earth. The doctor approaches the pyramid and speaks with the monks, who tell him that they will wait for the humans to ask them for help, before making every clock in the world into a doomsday clock, counting down until midnight when a catastrophe will happen. The monks show the doctor and the military leaders what the Earth will look like in 1 year, and it's a dead planet. To avoid this, the monks ask for consent to take over, but the consent must be given willingly, and the military leaders who act out of fear and strategy do not satisfy the monks, and they are killed. The doctor identifies the cause of the pandemic to be a biolab where a toxic substance has gotten out of hand, and he works to sterilize it and save the world. But at the last moment, the doctor's blindness prevents him from escaping the explosions that he has set, and he confesses to Bill that he is still blind. Not wanting to lose the doctor, Bill makes a deal with the monks to restore the doctor's eyesight, and while the doctor manages to recover and escape the explosion, saving the world from the toxin in the process, the monks now have control over the Earth. With the monks now rulers over humanity, Bill struggles to hold on to her memories from before their invasion, since the monks are using brainwashing to convince the humans that they have always been with them. Those who challenge this are imprisoned for memory crimes, and strangely, the doctor is working for the monks, creating propaganda that is shown on TV. Bill keeps herself grounded by imagining her mother, and when Nardole finally tracks her down, they make a plan to rescue the doctor from where he is being held. When Nardole and Bill find the doctor, he surprises them by revealing that he is helping the monks willingly, as he sees them as a benefit to humanity. But Bill, horrified at the doctor's betrayal, is pushed to her breaking point, and she takes a gun from a nearby soldier and shoots the doctor, causing him to regenerate. However, before he changes, the doctor confesses that the gun Bill used was firing blanks, and this was all just a test meant to make sure that Bill was not compromised by the monks. Bill is understandably very upset by this, but there's no time to lose, as they begin to work on a plan to take down the monks. Realizing he has nothing to lose, the doctor finally opens the vault which contains Missy, who he has been tasked with guarding for 1,000 years. He asks her for tips on defeating the monks, and she tells him that the only way to get rid of them is to kill the person who made a deal with them to begin with. But since that person is Bill, the doctor is adamant that they will find another way. With a group of soldiers, they infiltrate the monks' pyramid and find the room broadcasting the propaganda. The doctor attempts to use his own mind to overwrite the monk's message, but he is not strong enough, and instead, Bill attempts it, knowing that the strain will kill her, but that will break the hold that the monks have. However, as Bill focuses on the memory of her mother, the one incorruptible thought in her mind, the monks' propaganda begins to crumble, and humanity rises up in resistance, forcing the monks off the planet. When NASA finds the words "God Save the Queen" written on Mars, the Doctor, Bill, and Nardole take the TARDIS there in the year 1881 to investigate. They find the planet occupied by Victorian soldiers along with an ice warrior named Friday, who crash-landed on Earth and brought the soldiers back with him in return for their help. The soldiers believe that they are there for mining purposes, but secretly, Friday is using them to uncover his hive, and soon, the Ice Empress Araxa is released. While initially allowing the humans to go in peace, Araxa changes her mind when one of the soldiers fires at her, and soon she begins to revive more Ice Warriors. As the Ice Warriors attack, Friday teams up with Bill and the Doctor, and they use the mining device to create a stalemate. But when one of the soldiers saves Araxa from his fellow countrymen and swears his allegiance to her, she relents, and the Doctor contacts Alpha Centauri at the Galactic Federation to assist the Ice Warriors in their diplomatic relations. Later, after the Doctor and Bill get into an argument on the fate of the 9th Legion of the Imperial Roman Army, they travel with Nardole to the 2nd century Scotland to prove each other wrong. As the Doctor and Nardole come across the boneless corpses of the Legion, Bill discovers a small group of them hiding underground from what they call a light-eating locust. The Doctor and Nardole find a cairn being guarded by a primitive tribe, and when the Doctor tries to enter the cairn, he is transported to an interdimensional portal full of terrible light-eating creatures. When the Doctor comes back out seconds later, 2 whole days have gone by. The tribe leader, Carr, explains that once a generation, a warrior goes into the cairn to defeat an Eater of Light, but this time, she allowed one to escape, and the Doctor tells her that if they do not get the creature back, it will consume the sun and all the stars in the universe. Meanwhile, Bill leads the remaining Legion away from the creature and reunites with the Doctor, and together they lure the creature back into the cairn. The Doctor tells them that one person will have to stay in the portal to be sure that no creatures escape, and while he plans to do it himself given his long lifespan, the remaining Legion, as well as Carr, sacrifice themselves to stop the Light Eaters. With the portal closed, they return to the TARDIS, finding Missy waiting for them inside. The Doctor decides to test Missy's atonement by having her answer a distress call along with Bill and Nardole, and he watches from the TARDIS as they arrive on a colony ship reversing away from a black hole. Soon, a crew member holds them at gunpoint, demanding to know if any of them are human, and when Bill tells him that she is, he shoots her, leaving a massive hole in her body. Suddenly, masked figures arrive on the elevators and take Bill with them as they depart, with the Doctor telling Bill to wait for him. The crew member tells them that 50 men went to the bottom floor 2 days ago, but due to time dilation from being so close to the black hole, hundreds of years have passed for them, and they never returned, with their descendants now numbering in the thousands on the ground floor. In just a few moments since she's been gone, a whole year has already passed for Bill. With no time to lose, the Doctor, Missy, and Nardole board the elevator and start to head down. Meanwhile, Bill wakes up in a hospital and finds that she has been fitted with a large mechanical device to replace her heart. She is shown around the bottom floor by a man named Razor, who explains to her that the people are sick from polluted air on the lower levels, and as a result, people are waiting to be upgraded for what he calls Operation Exodus. After waiting for years, Bill sees that the Doctor is finally on his way down the elevators, but Razor then tricks her into becoming the next upgrade subject. When the Doctor and friends arrive, Missy notices that the ship is from Mondas, the home of the Cybermen, and soon, Razor confronts her, revealing that the two of them are one and the same, as he is her previous incarnation, the Master. The Doctor and Nardole run into a Mondasian Cyberman, their original form, but to their horror, it introduces itself as Bill Potts. From the shadows, the Master and Missy appear and explain that they are witnessing the genesis of the Cybermen. The Doctor gets captured by the two Masters, but he reprograms the Cybernet to go after Time Lords as well, forcing them to flee. Nardole arrives in a shuttlecraft to rescue the Doctor, but he is electrocuted by a Cyberman. However, the Cyber Bill saves him, and they escape to a higher level of the ship that acts as a solar farm, with the Doctor suppressing his regeneration. Soon, more advanced Cybermen begin to appear, as the time dilation is allowing them more time to upgrade themselves and strategize. The Doctor tells Nardole to lead the humans to a new floor and remain there to protect them, and they say their goodbyes. Bill decides to stay and fight with the Doctor, but despite his desperate pleas, both Missy and the Master abandon him. However, as they depart, Missy betrays her former self, stabbing him and triggering his regeneration, but he gets her as well with his laser screwdriver, and they both laugh at their mutual betrayal. As the Cybermen army arrives, the Doctor fights them off as best he can, until, after being shot, he ignites all of the fuel pipes under the solar farm, engulfing the Cybermen in a fireball. As the Cyber Bill kneels by the Doctor's body, she is suddenly human again, and Heather, the possessed space oil from the pilot, appears in front of her, having found her through her tears. Heather saves Bill by transforming her into an entity like herself, and they leave the Doctor in his TARDIS as they go off to explore the universe together. As the TARDIS arrives in a snowy landscape, the Doctor wakes up, dazed and confused. Not wanting to continue to change like he always does, the Doctor fights his regeneration defiantly, seeming to stop it. But when the cloister bell sounds, he finds himself face to face with his original incarnation, the Definite Article. Running into his future self after defeating the Cybermen for the first time, the First Doctor is at a moment right before his first regeneration, but he too is refusing to change. The two doctors are soon approached by a confused British captain from the First World War, who has somehow been displaced in time from 1914 while in a standoff with a German soldier. All three of them are then forcibly taken onto a large spaceship, where they meet creatures made of glass, who offer them freedom in return for releasing the captain to them. Adding to the mystery, Bill Potts is also with them, but the Doctor does not believe that she is real, since to his knowledge, Bill was turned into a Cyberman. Refusing to allow the captain to die, the four of them, two doctors, the captain, and Bill, make their escape back to the first Doctor's TARDIS, and they travel to the planet Villengard, where the 12th Doctor meets with the rogue Dalek Rusty from the episode Into the Dalek. Given access to the Dalek's hive mind, the Doctor learns that the glass people are known as testimony, and they were designed to extract people from their timelines at the moment of their death to archive their memories into glass avatars. It turns out that Bill is one of these avatars, created from her memories, and seeing no evil to fight, the Doctors agree to return the captain to his timeline. However, they ask to take him back themselves. Upon arrival, the captain asks the Doctors to keep an eye out for his family, introducing himself as Archibald Hammis Lethbridge Stewart, and the 12th Doctor happily says he will have nothing to worry about. However, as time resumes, the Doctors watch as both sides of the war front begin to sing Silent Night, and a ceasefire is declared. It turns out that the Doctor deliberately shifted the captain's timeline to the famous Christmas armistice to ensure that his life would be spared. With the captain safe, the first Doctor decides to regenerate, and he says his goodbyes before he returns to his TARDIS. Now alone with Bill's avatar, the Doctor says she's not really Bill, but Bill argues that memories are what define a person, and to prove this, she restores the Doctor's memories of Clara, every one of them. They are joined by Nardol's avatar, and the Doctor says his final goodbyes to his companions. The Doctor enters his TARDIS and decides to regenerate at least one more time, but not before he relays some advice to his next incarnation. With his last words, "Doctor, I let you go," the 13th Doctor enters the scene, and noticing that she is now a woman, the Doctor says, "Oh, brilliant," before she is hurled out of the TARDIS and plummets to the planet below. So, we did it! We did it! I can't believe it's finally over. The 12 Doctors of Christmas took more time and more effort than I could have ever imagined, but I sure learned a lot, and I hope I've informed some of you as to the history of the show, particularly the history of Classic Who, and I look forward to adding to my many videos for years to come. Please be sure to check out my past videos on all of the Doctors, from 1 to 12, and don't forget to like and subscribe for new videos every week. I'm so excited to make new videos about the future of the show and what we can expect from the 13th Doctor, so stay tuned for lots more. As always, thank you for being my companion on this journey today, yesterday, and all the days coming soon. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.